Alright guys, sorry this isn't my usual widescreen content. This is just all I have this week and I don't have anything else, so I see some other YouTube channels sometimes upload like this. Just watch it on your phone and you'll be happy. Sorry. I don't want to waste the footage, so here you go. And thanks for watching if you do watch, so appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for subscribing and all that good stuff. Alright, so you just scored your mower project. You're going to strip it all down, get rid of the whole wiring harness, simplify all that crap, and now it's starting to look like this. Now, of course, yours probably doesn't have two engines on it, but let's just picture the ultimate goal here. You probably are going to want it to look something like that. And now you've gone ahead and you've stripped all the wiring out of it. And where do you start? Where do you go from here? First thing I recommend, make sure you have a running machine before you strip anything off of it. Go ahead and try to get it started, make sure it runs, and then if you have any problems, you can fix that first and then strip all this crap out of it. So the main reason you'd want to strip all this out and start over is there's just a whole bunch of unnecessary wiring in these things. You know, you can't even really see the extent of the harness, how heavy and bulky it is. There's a reverse safety switch. There's a clutch safety switch. Those are actually tied into the PTO switch so that you can't back up and run over your dog when you're mowing your lawn. And, you know, all of that can go. It's not necessary for going fast. Now, on the old hot rod tractor here, it is all just wired up from scratch. Now, it may look like a little bit of a rat's nest, but believe me, that is barely anything compared to what this thing would have had on it originally. And there's a couple of ways you can go about this. As I've done here, and depending on if you have anything already or if you want to buy anything, get a nice heavy-duty push button and a toggle switch, or you can stick with the original ignition switch. And I will show you in a second how simple these are. These are all labeled pretty much these OEM switches from the mowers. But there's such a simple system here. Because it's not an electronic ignition, it is a magneto. All you need to run one of these is, of course, the wiring to the starter, which is the starter solenoid. Power comes from the battery, power goes to the starter, and a signal or power feed wire comes from, in this case, comes from the push button, which, you know, is just a two-position switch. Power from a fused source, and then power out to the solenoid. The toggle switch simply operates a grounding wire to the coils. The magnetos, to turn off the engine, they are just grounded to the chassis. So for the on-off function, it is just simply a wire going up to ground from one side of the switch, and then the other wire goes down into the back of the magnetos. Now, there is something you have to keep in mind depending on what engine you have. In the case of the Briggs V-twin, and possibly every other similar V-twin, I don't know for sure, but I know about the Briggs, there is a one-way diode between the coils. Now, I'm not going to pull this cover off right now. It's too much of a pain, but very simply, there is a harness in there that comes out to kill the coils, and there's actual wire that goes in between the two coils. It goes from that side over to this side, and then it feeds out. It Ys. It actually, you know, splices together, and it comes out. But there's actually a one-way diode in between the coils. So don't mess with that. Leave that alone. There's no reason to mess with that. Typically, there's actually a plug on the end of that harness anyway, so there's really no reason to mess with that part of the harness. And by the way, that is also, if you want to put a tack on one of these, that same exact wire that is grounding out the coils to shut it down is actually where you get your tack feed. Now, most of you are probably just going to want to stick with what you have, and there's really no reason not to just use the original ignition switch. It works fine. All right, so all these lawnmower factory ignition switches, they are actually labeled on the back, so we'll go over that real quick. And this one, just to show you is actually a headlight function one. Some of them have it, some of them don't, and this just eliminates the need for an extra headlight switch. That's the run position, and then you'd back off to there to the lights. And now there are a few different variants of these ignition switches, but again, they're pretty much all labeled. So power feeds into this one, then here magneto, so that one will actually go from the coils, the magnetos, the ground wire from the back of the magneto. This will chassis ground, G for ground, and then that's your on-off. So with this chassis grounded and this to the magnetos, you turn it to off and it'll shut the engine down. Then this is the start position, see S for start, and that will go to the activation wire on your starter solenoid. You want to fuse between that circuit, and then your lights are right here, L, and you want to fuse between that if you're going to use that for your lights. But definitely the easiest thing to do is if you have your machine complete, get a test light, get a multimeter, test the wires at the ignition switch so you know exactly what's what and what goes where. Another thing to keep in mind is if you have trouble getting your engine running, if it's not running and you think you might not have spark, you just simply disconnect that kill wire going to the coils to eliminate that as an option. That'll be something you can use to diagnose on a regular machine if you would, had an issue like that. And so let's take another quick look at my setup here. So I'm actually still using the original fuse block from this mower. So that is the only thing that I reused, and I just wired to that. There's a fuse for the headlights on a toggle, and then there is, of course, the fuse for the start switch. The other stuff here, is extra stuff. That there's a 2-step selection switch or rev limiter, depending on where it's set, and that is what the relay is for. The relay is not required, although you can use a relay like that for your start circuit, but it's not necessary. And that's pretty much going to do it for this one. Proper thing for me to do would probably be to actually wire something up in a video, but that machine is far from anything, and well, this is just a pile of parts. So if I missed anything, hit me with a comment, and I don't know, I guess I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Belt is slipping like crazy. Did you see the sheriff go by? See y'all later. Yee!